What if you could take a pill to slow down aging? I know, for decades that's been total science fiction. But right now, today, scientists are getting serious about a handful of drugs that seem to target the very root causes of aging itself. So what are these drugs and, how close are we really to an anti-aging pill?
This quote from Seth Godin, it just nails the whole mindset behind this research. Aging isn't something that just hits you one day. Nope. It's this slow, gradual process. And all the science is pointing to one thing. Getting in there early might be the absolute key.
And this isn't some small niche problem. The scale here is, well, it's massive. Just look at this projection. The number of people over 60 on the planet is on track to double by 2050. This is not just about living longer, it's about extending what scientists call our health span. Basically, how many good, healthy years we get, free from all those chronic diseases.
Which, of course, brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today. Could a simple pill really be a legitimate answer to one of the oldest challenges humanity has ever faced?
Now look, we all know about eating right and exercising. We hear it all the time. But let's be honest, the hard truth is that sticking with those things day in and day out for years, it's incredibly tough for most people. And that's exactly why scientists are so focused on these small molecule drugs. They just might be a more practical, more accessible way for everyone to tap into the biology of aging.
So, based on a huge review of all the current science, it looks like 6 drugs have really pulled ahead of the pack. And what's cool is that each one targets a very specific but very crucial biological pathway that's tied to how we age.
So what are these 6 contenders? As you can see, it's a really interesting mix. We've got stuff you might have heard of, like aspirin, and then some more obscure ones. We've got rapamycin, metformin, acarbose, NMN, and even lithium. Each one hits aging from a different angle, from the way our cells produce energy, to chronic inflammation, and even the little protective caps on our DNA. So let's take a quick tour, starting with the most powerful one. All right, let's kick things off at the big one, the most talked about and maybe the most misunderstood drug of them all, rapamycin. So get this, rapamycin was first discovered in a scoop of dirt from Easter Island. How wild is that? And it works by targeting this pathway called mTOR. The best way to think of mTOR is like the master construction foreman for our cells. It's in charge of building proteins, managing energy, and even running the cell's cleanup crew, a process called autophagy. And in the lab, when you tell that foreman to take a break using rapamycin, it's been shown to extend the lifespan of basically everything from yeast all the way to mice.
But here's where the story gets really interesting. You could say rapamycin was kind of unlucky right from the very beginning, all because of how it was first branded and used.
Now, this slide really gets to the heart of it. Rapamycin was first approved for organ transplant patients, so it got slapped with the label immunosuppressant. That just sounds scary, right? But here's the thing. At the much lower doses being studied for anti-aging, researchers are arguing it's more of an immunity rejuvenator. Instead of just shutting down the immune system, it seems to rebalance it, calming down the runaway inflammation of aging while actually boosting the immune response in older people.
And if you want a perfect example of its power, check this out. One study found that rapamycin could shut down the replication of the deadly 1918 flu virus by a factor of 100. That's what a rebalanced, smarter immune system can do, not one that's been suppressed.
Okay, so that's the pioneer, rapamycin. Now let's do a quick tour of the other key players in this anti-aging lineup.
All right, next up is one you've probably heard of, metformin. It's a super common drug for type 2 diabetes. It works on a pathway called AMPK, which is kind of like your cell's fuel gauge. When that gauge is activated, it signals the cell to hunker down, conserve energy, and fire up its defenses. This helps tamp down inflammation and resist stress. It's widely used and pretty safe, but its main downside for some folks is, well, let's just say, gastrointestinal issues.
Then we've got acarbose. It's another diabetes drug, but it's fascinating because it works in a totally different way. It doesn't really work inside your cells, it works inside your gut. It basically blocks enzymes that digest starchy carbs. This means more of those carbs travel down into your lower intestine, where they become food for all your good gut bacteria. Those happy bacteria then produce compounds that seem to have real anti-aging benefits. It's a really clever workaround to get some of the same effects as calorie restriction.
Okay, now for one you may have seen online, NMN. This one's actually a supplement, not a drug. and it's a building block for a super important molecule called NAD+. Think of NAD+ as the high-octane fuel for your cellular repair crews. The problem? Our levels of this stuff they plummet as we get older. Taking NMN is all about topping off that tank, which in turn powers up these key longevity proteins called sirtuins.
This next one might surprise you. Lithium. Yeah, the same stuff known for treating bipolar disorder. Well, it turns out studies are suggesting it has this really intriguing anti-aging property. It seems to work on our telomeres. Those are the little protective caps on the ends of our chromosomes. Every time a cell divides, those caps get a little shorter, kind of like a ticking biological clock. Lithium might actually help keep those telomeres longer, essentially slowing that clock down.
And last but not least, we've got something that's probably sitting in your medicine cabinet right now. NSAIDs, like a simple low-dose aspirin. Their big potential comes from fighting what scientists call inflammaging. That's the chronic low-grade inflammation that just silently builds up in our bodies for decades. By turning down that inflammatory noise, these common drugs might slow down a huge piece of the aging puzzle.
Okay, so we've seen all this incredible promise, right? But, and this is a big but, it's not that simple. For every bit of promise, there's a potential risk. We have to look at both sides of the coin here.
And this is the promise part. Just look at this table. It shows how everything is connected. You can see that completely different drugs like metformin, NMN, and lithium all funnel down to affect the same key molecules, these phoxoproteins. This kind of overlap is a huge sign to researchers that they're on the right track, that they're hitting these central control knobs for aging.
But of course, that promise comes with some serious peril. Every single one of these drugs has known side effects. We're talking immune issues with rapamycin, potential kidney problems with lithium and NSAIDs. The list goes on. There's really no free lunch here. The whole game now is for researchers to figure out the perfect dose and the perfect schedule to get all the anti-aging good stuff while keeping these risks as low as possible.
And that really brings us to the ultimate question, not just for scientists, but for you, for all of us. As this science keeps moving forward, we're all going to have to think about these trade-offs. If a pill could give you more healthy, vibrant years, what level of risk would you be willing to accept to get them?